Hi everyone, welcome to this video. My name is T. If you're new here, I really do hope everyone's day is going well. I, for one, feel like I've aged about 5 years in the past 5 weeks because this is clearly Netflix's These Niggas Up season, where they finally release all their actually good shows that they've been hoarding in their basement for like the past 2 years. Oh my gosh. Money Heist, Sex Education, Squid Game? Oh, and of course, You. We have a very long, very intense conversation ahead of us, so I want you to be comfortable, grab a blanket, shit. If you're of age, grab a glass of wine, join me. Usually my go-to is Pinot Grigio, but today I'm sipping on a little Chardonnay action, you know, I feel it's fitting. And I'm gonna give you the freedom to decide what wine is best for your personal viewing pleasure. And if by chance you need some help with that, no worries, I got you. Because this portion of today's video is sponsored by Bright Cellars. Bright Cellars is a monthly wine subscription service that matches you with wines based on your unique taste. Now, if you're anything like me, you have great taste. And when you find something you like a great wine, you stick beside it. While our loyalty is commendable, I gotta say, using Bright Cellars to expand my wine palette has been a level up I did not know I needed. On their website, you can take a short quiz that assesses your taste preferences in 7 simple questions. Now, even though this quiz is short, it was actually really great at assessing what my palate is familiar with while still throwing in something new for me to try. I was sent 5 white wines and 1 red. My favorites were Pinot Grigio, of course, Chardonnay, duh, and I was also able to try some Sauvignon Blanc. I am on my way to becoming a worldly connoisseur. Don't play with me. Once you sign up, the wine is sent directly to you. So no need to be in the grocery store or the liquor store aisle with hundreds of options playing eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Bright Cellars will send it straight to your door. Even better, each sustainable box comes with wine education cards for each bottle that outlines the tasting notes, suggested pairings, best serving temperature, and origin. If you're ready to try it out for yourself, Bright Cellars is offering 60% off their first 4-bottle box. Just click the first link in my description for more details. And of course, thank you to Bright Cellars for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Non-Monogamy and You. The structure of You Season 3 was really different from the others, which I can appreciate. And a key aspect that really stuck out to me was the emphasis that was placed on characters Sherry and Cary Conrad, who were initially introduced in the very first episode. They reminded me of a particular couple in Hollywood who the internet can't seem to go more than a few months without sparking discourse about. You know exactly who I'm referring to, Will and Jada Pinkett-Smith. But hear me out. In You, before we became familiar with the Conrads as a unit, we were introduced to them individually. Firstly, Sherry, the supermom social media sensation who everyone loves for her selective vulnerability. And then Cary, highly respected in his community, especially amongst other men. Not necessarily in the spotlight of his wife's work, but definitely a key essential factor considering he is the one who made her a wife and a mother in the first place, which shapes the experiences she so frequently and so openly talks about in her work. It's also notable that similar to Will, Cary is quite large in stature. So physically, he presents as this big, strong he-man, equally connected to both the brawny nature of his masculinity and the tenderness of his emotions. You just keep that in mind. Because of the Conrads' seemingly perfect presentation, it was often foreshadowed that there was a little something up with them. Some real unexpected stuff that the audience could use to explain how the hell they could be so like that. So damn perfect and so committed to upholding this perfection, especially in public. Something had to be up. And then, sure enough, in episode 7, by way of Sherry making sexual advances to love, it was revealed that the Conrads were polyamorous, which is defined by rightforeducation.org simply as intimate relationships with more than one person. Importantly, all the people in a polyamorous relationship know about it and consent to it. Keep that in mind too. The way polyamory was presented in this show, I'm a little conflicted about it. I feel they both added to and took away from the stigma. For example, I can really appreciate how organized and serious Sherry and Cary were about it. Like, they came with the notepad and the folder. And the second they got even the slightest hint that Love and Joe weren't 100% ready, they hit the dough. which signals to me as both a viewer and as someone who isn't very well educated in polyamory but is still very intrigued by the concept that this is not a plaything. All that sneaky link situationship stuff that we be joking about on Twitter, this is not that. This is an open, honest, consensual exchange reserved for the sexually confident and the emotionally mature. I love that. But I also took slight issue with the fact that Sherry and Cary were written as the most erratic and peculiar characters in the show. I mean, aside from the murderers, yeah, because it really don't get more erratic than these two fuckers. But aside from them, Sherry and Cary were quite odd. And I don't know, pairing weirdness with polyamory, you give and you take, I guess. I just hope that we're not on our way to building a stereotype. I mean, this is a very popular show. But even with all the chaos that went down in that show, the fact that one of the standout features was the Conrads, that indicates to me that many of us are fascinated by the concept of polyamory. We find it fascinating. We find non-monogamy fascinating. We find unconventional relationship types fascinating. And ain't nothing wrong with that. Now, sometimes I wonder if people's dedication to criticizing this relationship is rooted in the thrill that comes from catching celebrities with their metaphorical pants down. Because that shit do be fun. I'm referring to the entanglement situation, which we'll get to. But like, yeah, is it that? Is it the thrill that comes from being affirmed that even super rich, famous, powerful people like the Smiths have stories that are just as messy, just as fucked up as ones you would find on Jerry Springer or in like a Twitter beef thread? Maybe. And considering we are a generation that glamorizes hookup culture and situationships and even the golden hoe phase, it can easily be concluded that not only do we find it fascinating to watch, but a good chunk of us also find it really fun to engage in. So it makes me wonder, what is it about the Smiths that makes them such a target? Here's my rough hypothesis. I'm gonna read it. Aside from the misogyny and contradicting morals, I believe people's dedication to constantly criticizing the Smiths stems from their personal aspirations for Black love, or if you're not Black, then just the nuclear, monogamous, capitalist family. There's a certain peace of mind that comes from seeing the things we want, or the things we were taught to believe we should want, already successfully achieved. Like there's a certain ease that comes from seeing the blueprint and not having to be the pioneer of your own story. And seeing the Smiths as figureheads for achieving this, but then later finding out that it was done with very non-traditional, often very scorned value systems, can be disheartening because it does not match what people envision their place in the enterprise to be. The enterprise of Black love. The enchantment of Will and Jada, especially in the Black community, comes from how well they are able to sell the mysterious, concocted, but believable, and thus profitable, facade of Black love. When I say Black love in this context, I am not referring to Black people who fall in love. I am referring to the enterprise of Black love, the token of Black love, where the focal point isn't necessarily on the sincerity of the union, but what the union represents on a cultural level. Will and Jada, similar to like a B&J or an Alicia and Swizz, are the epitome of what fitting into the Black love enterprise looks like. They've been together for a long time, they're attractive, they're cultural gems, and they're rich. And that is what many people aspire to have. That is what many people look at and they make a promise to themselves and they say, I'm gonna get that one day. I'm going to obtain that one day. And I wish it was so simple. I wish we could stop it right there. Like, I really wish I didn't have to ruin everything. But it's in the job description. There is a video called The False Promise of Black Love by a user named Pink Mahogany. Really great, really interesting video where, by my interpretation, they explain that what makes the enterprise of Black love so much more of a fairy tale than something actually obtainable is because it's centered on chauvinistic, patriarchal values, which puts the majority of the struggle to find love and the entirety of the blame, if that is not achieved, all on Black women. That is why when it actually is accomplished, it's this huge thing. It's treated as like a community souvenir of sorts, almost like a collective accomplishment. When it comes to the Smiths, rumors that their marriage did not follow traditional monogamy have been around since the early 2000s, so damn near the entirety of their marriage. And with the exception of a few Facebook posts and interviews, the Smiths managed to keep their relationship fairly private. And that was tolerated. Yeah, like I don't really think anyone had a particular issue with that because that's what all the Black Love VIPs do. That's by design, and it's nothing new to us. But then, around 2018, Will and Jada made their transition from the big screen to the phone screen, meaning that the bulk of their publicity was no longer coming from like movies and TV shows, but from social media. You see where I'm going with this? So they moved into that little gray area of like celebrities who are also kind of influencers, celebfluencers, I don't know. And the second they did that, they knew all of that secrecy shit. But instead of just spilling their guts in front of us, they practiced selective vulnerability, which is a term I heard Kim Foster use in one of her videos. I'm talking, we learned about Will's once upon a time baby mama drama, which has now turned into a beautiful blended family. We learned about how his ego damn near destroyed the family. We've learned about some of the things Jada's been through, some of her trauma, her journey of healing. We've just learned a lot. We've learned a lot of things, a lot of valuable things, I'd even say. And this formula of selective vulnerability and giving us mess, but mess in retrospect, right? Mess that's like neatly packaged. It worked. It was working for a hot little minute, but that didn't extinguish the burning 20-year-old question that was lurking in the background. Are y'all fucking other people or not? So when the biggest spectacle, being the entanglement story, broke in 2020, it's no surprise that social media put their foot on the gas and haven't let up since. Entanglements Shmentanglements. I'm gonna do my best to give my informed interpretation of this event. I was gonna say informed and unbiased, but I fear people may misinterpret unbiased as non-judgmental, and no way. No way. Definitely judging, but you know, I'm gonna try to be balanced in that. Equal opportunity hateration, you know what I mean? But you know, judgmental or not, giving an informed take on this is difficult because in total, we have less than 1 hour of spoken information about this. Honestly, it's really like 30 minutes, give or take, which drives home my initial point of how invested people are, how fascinated people are. In June of 2020, singer August Alsina uploaded an interview conducted by Angela Yee to YouTube. In that interview, he details his journey of emotional peace, which didn't come easy considering everything he's been through. He's battled addiction, he lost his brother, he lost his sister, which caused him to become the adopted father of his 3 nieces, amongst other things. And this man isn't even 30 years old yet. Around the 17-minute mark of the interview, he addresses his and Jada Pinkett-Smith's alleged relationship. He begins by disclaiming that he ain't break up nobody marriage, okay? In fact, Will Smith actually gave him his blessing. Yeah. We gonna put a pin right the fuck up in that, okay? August continues that he gave his entire self to this relationship to the point where he says, and I quote, "I can die right now and be okay with knowing that I truly gave myself to somebody. Walking away from it butchered me. Like, I'm shaking right now because it almost killed me. Not almost, it did. It pushed me into being another person, my newer self. It broke me down. It was a part of me being paralyzed. Trying to pull myself apart from it will probably be one of the hardest things that I've ever experienced in this lifetime." A few weeks later, Jada Pinkett-Smith brought herself to the table, joined by her husband, Will Smith. She explains that 4-ish years ago, so about 5-ish at the time that this video was uploaded, she became really close friends with August Alsina. And then both Jada and Will, in unison, they say that August was so sick when he first came to them. And as a family, they gathered resources to help pull him out of that. In that time, Will and Jada separated indefinitely, and she and August became entangled. She was broken, he was broken, and she just wanted to feel good, red flag. And she found healing in helping heal him. Red flag. Now, aside from those bright, bloody red flags, one of my only areas of concern for this situation was the evident power imbalance that was never once acknowledged. Jada Pinkett-Smith and August Alsina are 21 years apart in age. I don't like that. I respect the age of consent. I do. And I get that none of this was technically illegal, but age gaps have to be examined on a case-by-case basis. It's not just about the number of years, but we also have to take into consideration the stages of life each individual party is in. Like, that's super important. Aside from being super young and immature, August Alsina came to them traumatized, desperate, struggling with addiction. And Jada Pinkett-Smith still saw that as an appropriate time to start a relationship with him and not see any issue with it, even 4 years later, simply because of how transformative it was for her healing journey. That concerns the fuck out of me. That concerns the fuck out of me. And it concerned others too. Yeah, that was a huge area of concern, a huge part of the initial community conversation that happened shortly after on Twitter. So I'm not going to pretend like no one was paying attention to that. But the part of the conversation with the most legs, like the part of the conversation with the most momentum that's still running to this day, was questioning how this could even be love in the first place. How could Jada really love Will or love anyone if she does not practice sexual exclusivity? Now, I'm gonna skip the bullshit. I'm not even gonna make you guess on that one. It's because she's a woman. Jada's sexuality and Will's manhood. There's much to be said about how polyamory in heterosexual relationships is viewed when it is the woman who is engaging most publicly in it. Many people feel it is their duty to come to the defense of Will, not out of their belief in the rule of sexual exclusivity, but due to their belief in sexual ownership. In the portion of August's interview where he spoke about his relationship with Jada Pinkett-Smith, he began his entire spiel with, "I spoke to Will and he gave me his blessing." His who?
It was gone.
Let me just go in the bush and weep. Let me just go in the bush and weep. I just have to go in the bush and weep. Really. I don't understand. I swear to God, I don't understand.
Jada Pinkett-Smith is a grown-ass woman. Okay, need I remind y'all, she is old enough to be his mother. There's no blessings or permission needed. And I'm so glad that despite the fact that she was under fire, she still put her foot down in that interview and she left no room for confusion that she is a grown, autonomous woman. And ain't nobody blessing or permitting her to do shit with her own body. But that statement that August made is so rich. It's so rich. Because again, even as evolved as he wanted to appear to be, and you know, I'm really not trying to sound condescending when I say this, but bless him. Bless him. Because you could really tell, especially with the way he was speaking, the way he was constructing his sentences, the pauses he was taking in between his words, you could really tell that he wanted to be mindful of what he was saying in order to show us that he has grown tremendously. And bless him, but even with that, he still couldn't make the simple connection that his relationship with Jada was okay simply because it was a consensual exchange that did not disrespect the boundaries of her marriage. And that's it. And that's where the sentence ends. He couldn't make that simple connection. He thought that the only reason it was okay, the end-all be-all justification, was because Will said so. Because another man said so. That's rich. That's rich. That could lead us somewhere else. If you need another example, here's a tweet I came across a few days ago. Let me read it. So it's a picture of Jada and Will on the left, and then a picture of Beyonce and Jay-Z on the right. The tweet says, "Spot the difference. Jada holds the whip, the man of the relationship, and Will do the dishes, and Beyonce is simply Jay-Z's wife. Legs open and legs crossed. You all know whose pussy is for the community." Now this tweet is already so dense at face value, but let's revisit that last sentence. Legs open and legs crossed. You all know whose pussy is for the community. Not who is having sex with multiple people in the community, but whose vagina the community now owns. It's almost as if this tweet holds true the belief that when a woman has sex, she relinquishes ownership of her own body. Let's keep it going though. Let's keep it going. Because this sense of ownership goes so much deeper than sexual pride. In his memoir, Will Smith revealed that he contemplated killing his own father. The reason? His father was abusive to his mother. The responses from people? Will so stressed from Jada, he's plotting on his pops. Oh no, there's more. In a trailer for his YouTube Originals docuseries, he revealed that he also considered suicide. The reason? He hasn't shared that yet. But considering it's a docuseries about his fitness journey, I'd say maybe it's due to his self-image, fitness standards, beauty standards as an actor, the pressure from Hollywood, I don't know, anything but. Okay. The responses from people, I blame Jada. That bitch Jada making my nigga going crazy. Now, okay, the headlines for these stories did not give a whole lot of context. It was definitely clickbait. But if people are gonna have the gumption to draw conclusions on someone else's suffering, they can at least have the decency to click the little link. But man, the way all roads conveniently lead back to Jada, it's almost as if people feel Will's trauma and emotions don't deserve enough respect to exist independently. It's almost as if people are concluding that because Jada simply exists as an autonomous sexual being, that she is the culprit of all bad things Will has ever experienced, even if she wasn't even there. Do y'all hear how stupid? Will Smith never asked any of y'all to come to his defense. In fact, he never once said that this was a situation in which he and Jada were opponents. I will admit that Will's body language was a little bit unsettled in that interview, sure. But that was because of capitalism, y'all. We were not watching him silently mourn the broken sanctity of marriage, like y'all keep pretending to be concerned about. He was mourning the bag. That entanglement situation was fucking with his position in the Black Love enterprise, and he was pissed, presumably, right? Remember selective vulnerability? They didn't select that shit. And it would be upsetting for anyone that someone else's mess, even if that someone else is your spouse, someone else's mess is threatening your income. Like, I would be pissed too. Nevertheless, he and Jada were not on opposing sides, which is why they came to the red table together. But people still view Will as a victim. And let me tell you why I think that is. Signifier, one of my favorite creators, has a video called Black Men in Love, where he discusses just that. And he talks about Love Jones amongst other classic Black love story movies. And in a chapter called Masculinity versus Vulnerability, he talks about the process of falling in love for Black men, and how in order to have true love that serves your partner in a genuine, selfless way, all that machismo gotta go. All that toxic masculinity and being hard got to go. And this is where I started to develop some empathy. Because from the outside looking in, it seems so easy, right? Like, bro, just stop being toxically masculine. But if that's all you've ever known, in that case, it's no longer a simple shedding of a bad layer. It is a constant undoing and reinventing of self. And a constant reinventing of manhood, all in the gamble that is romantic love. An emphasis on gamble, because another thing Signifier mentions is that vulnerability could risk a man's general desirability to other women. Like, that's the tea and cookies right there, because I know that there are a plethora of women out there who, degrading as it may be, they have an intense attraction to machismo, an intense attraction to that tough exterior, and they actively seek that out in male partners. And they only want to see those layers peeled back if and only if they happen to fall in love. So this kind of stuff is not only upheld by men themselves, but people of all genders. And because I often see Black men leading the brunt of the criticism towards Jada Pinkett-Smith, I think they are trying to avenge the sacrifice Will probably made to become the evolved, emotionally sound man he presents as. I think they want to avenge August for all he's been through. Remember, he said he died in that relationship and had to bring himself back to life. Whoa. And to imagine that this one woman can live with herself and really look herself in the mirror, knowing that she will not stay sexually exclusive with just one man for the rest of her life. It's a personal offense. It's seen as a personal attack. And while I get how the connections can be made, y'all gotta stop taking this out on her. The emotional intelligence that some Black men reluctantly develop for sake of love is not done in vain if the relationship does not turn out to be how they expected. And the sooner we get that shit out of our heads, that falling in love or having a daughter are the only valid reasons for men to develop emotional intelligence, the better we all will be. I do not idolize the Smiths. I do not model my relationships after them. I do not defend them for the sake of their celebrity. But it does speak volumes that if they can get this kind of heat, I can only imagine what regular everyday people in non-monogamous or polyamorous relationships are facing out there. And honestly, the structure of how I'm rationalizing all of this can be applied to so many things. So many things that people feel the need to condemn simply because they can't imagine doing it themselves. We should all aim to be rational enough to not take it upon ourselves to try and discipline others because we feel excluded from their fairy tale. Just write your own. Thank you all so much for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. I remember when I did my Red Table Talk video a couple months ago and I said I wasn't going to talk about the entanglement situation because it was not the right place or time. And people was really in my comments trying to press me like, no, this is the perfect place and the perfect time. So y'all still bringing up women's sex lives in tandem with their professional careers without their permission, huh? Gotcha. No, but seriously, if I would have made this video a couple months ago, I wouldn't have made this video a couple months ago. Like, I didn't have this kind of passion for the topic a couple months ago. So, like, everything in due time. Thanks for waiting, though. Be sure to leave your thoughts and your comments down below. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, however you're feeling today. And subscribe for more content. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.